before we start rambling too much.
It's already 9:20.
Well, I know, and I've hit record, and so now we're gonna have this really fun intro part, and then we'll just
You'll
pause,
really enjoy it,
and then we'll do the actual intro.
Is that an Obi-Wan figure over there? Yeah.
It is. It's one of the ones that you gave me.
Oh, good.
And I'm taking really good care of it.
Seems safe.
Because I have no space in my cabinets. just like the Darth Vader pop up there.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I could put it in this really nice plastic case that my spiffing Brit U2's rip-off pop vinyl figure came
Pretty
in.
sweet, though.
It is really cool. But the thing is that it's not sized for an actual pop box.
Oh, really?
The boxes are smaller.
Oh, it does. You can see it next to the pop next to it, yeah.
So
But
I was
it fits a brickhead's really nice.
It fits all right. I put the JSA behind it. It looks really good.
I do like that Ahsoka signature. That
Yeah.
Ashley Eckstein signature.
It looks good. All right, with that, welcome to another episode of the Force Diet Podcast. Wherever, whenever, and however you may be listening, we are honored that you've joined us. On tonight's episode, we're going to do an SDCC recap. Jedi John and B from the Galactic Dads went out to San Diego a couple weeks back, and well, they had a lot of fun. So we're gonna chat a bit about that and cover the recent Andor trailer. It looks good. So we're going to talk a bit about that and kind of do a preview for the show, what we think is going to happen, that and a little bit more. So sit back and relax. This is where the fun begins.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
Why is the Force connecting us?
I am a Jedi. Always two there are.
We're a dyad in the Force.
And welcome to the Force Dyad, episode 32. Jedi John here with Obi Sean, as you heard him in the intro. Very, very excited to be back on the pod. It's been just a hot minute. Been busy, been on a couple trips.
Life's gotten in the way a few times.
Yeah, life.
Such as things.
That thing called life. And not the board game, the other thing.
Yeah, spoiler alert, the board game is not reflective of
Real life.
real life.
If I roll a 6 right now, I can make $10,000 for graduating college, or I can get a job.
Right. Or you can go to tech school. You decide.
You decide.
But yeah, it's great to be back.
Yeah, it feels so good.
It feels good to be behind the mic recording again. So really looking forward to this discussion. We've spoken briefly about your trip to SDCC, but nothing in depth. So I'm actually really excited to get the 411 on that. But people still say that, right? 411.
Yeah, old people,
Or
Sean.
did the 90s call them
Old people.
The 90s called. They want their catchphrase back. So
I actually say that at work sometimes, and all my associates just look at me and walk away and roll their eyes. Hey, what's 411? And they just walk away.
Yeah.
Which is the point anyway, because usually I'm breaking up a group of employees that should be helping customers, but instead they're just chatting.
What's the skinny? What's the sitch? Right?
What's the Sitch might go over better. They probably watch that show.
Well, there's going to be a new live action version of it, I think, coming to. I saw something at SDCC about it. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about where we're recording from tonight.
It's a fun place.
I'm gonna call it the Jedi Outpost because it's definitely not temple-ish, and it's got wood paneling walls that are warped.
Are you sure it's not temple-ish? I mean,
it depends.
depending on what kind of culture you're in.
It's true. It's so it's my rec room at my house, and it's affectionately my Lego room / workout room. So we're currently setting our beers on my workout bench. So it's doing heavy lifting this evening.
Yeah, it's lifting the important stuff.
It's tonight's episode sponsored by Breckenridge and Kona Brewing.
Yeah, they are delicious beers.
They are, but yeah. So got my Lego room, got the Falcon and the ISD to the right. I've got my modest Lego investing collection behind Jedi John right now.
He says it's modest, but I'm looking at like 40 or 50 Lego packages that are unopened right now, ranging from
40
anywhere.
or 50. That's just like the one shelf, I think.
That only has 10. I just did 10. Oh shoot, that's like 20. All right, maybe it's closer to 75. Anyway, but some of those sets I think retail probably for like $15 each, and then I'm looking at other sets over there that retail for anywhere between $50 and $250, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. The most, well, I've got the A-Wing. I've got my Scientantive up there, which you brought back from Celebration a couple years ago, or I guess a few years ago now.
You're explaining it really well.
Well, I don't have... You'll be happy to have a piece of cardboard covering it, so it's not being dented.
Yeah.
But then I got my Luke Landspeeder down there, which I'm actually going to build. Many of these I'll actually build at some point, but a lot of it is for investing purposes. I did just get my new BD1 set, which came from the recent August 1st drops, and it looks awesome.
The BD1, if you have not seen it at retail or at a Lego store near you, it looks great. The box on it, I mean, it looks like a fun build. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually really excited to. I'd say potentially, but I'm gonna get it. Mm-hmm. So. And
then it's gonna sit in your room just like your Mos Eisley Cantina set.
And my Boba Fett throne room, and my Bat Cave, and my you got that
tumbler too, didn't you?
And the ISD.
That's right.
That's just sitting there. Well, yours is sitting there much more nice.
So that's what it'll look like. In 10 years when you eventually build it.
It'll be good. But yeah, that's all the sealed stuff we just talked about. But then, the stuff you got on display looks fantastic.
I've got the ISD, the Falcon. I've got the new N1 Starfighter. I've got the AT-ST Raider.
So the only UCS ones are the ISD and the Falcon?
Correct, yeah.
Over there currently?
Yep, over there. Yeah, and then I've got the UCS A-Wing. And I guess the UCS Landspeeder on the shelf.
Is that Harry Potter chest, wizard chest I see over there?
That is the normal Lego. That's like the normal vintage Lego chest set. That's actually the very first Lego set I got.
Oh, really?
That my brother-in-law Jimmy got me for my birthday, I don't know, 7 years ago. And it really kick-started my Lego collection. And then out there...
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah. Out there, I've got my UCS Slave 1. I've got my BB-8. I've got my Bespin Duel. The one that I built is out there on display.
Ah, yes.
So we're recording tonight from the outpost. So, and Jedi John forgot his mic stand, so he's going to be freehanding it.
Yeah. So if you guys start hearing random tapping, it's just my hands on my mic.
Yeah. So it's going to be a fun recording tonight. With that, let's dive into the first discussion, our first topic for the evening. And that is San Diego Comic-Con. So, I mean...
This should be Q&A? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, so,
format on this.
Okay, well, so, I mean, you guys, just like with Celebration, you're waiting 3 years for this. You guys could have exchanged your tickets for the virtual event last year, right? But you chose not to?
Yeah, no.
That's how that worked, right?
Well, yeah, the virtual event was... it was either the virtual one... or you could have done the, what it said. What was? I don't forget what it was called. It was over Thanksgiving weekend, and I'm like, well, I work retail, so that's out. So
would have been a perfect excuse to get out of work. Wink, wink.
Right. Yeah.
So just, I mean, with Comic-Con, you've got, well, everything's there, right? You've got, I mean, it's, coming from Celebration, which is Star Wars centric. This is what, 5 times bigger?
Bigger.
10 times bigger?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
So so I asked you this question last week and you couldn't give me an answer, but starting off, like, I don't know, what was the big takeaway?
From SDCC?
Yeah. And then we'll talk a bit more about like specific things.
I am going to go with be better prepared. I think I didn't lazily go into it. I just did not realize everything that was there until the day we picked up our free bags and like guides. I knew it was going to be big. I mean, I knew it. But walking in and actually getting the program guide, like, it's so different than like Star Wars Celebration because everything's posted online within a couple days of the event, and you can pretty much scroll through things fairly quickly. You know, there's a lot going on, but there's only a few big things. At San Diego, like, there's rooms upon rooms upon rooms of stuff going on There's rooms at hotels, neighboring hotels that's going on. That's still part of the event, actually, that you have to have your badge on to get in. There's things outside the convention hall that are like tents and pop-ups and everything else that like they take over a bar. Like one of the first night we were there, B and I ended up at a Star Trek bar, you
Nice.
know, and it was fun. You know, we had a good time, but like it was just a pop-up Star Trek bar for Paramount Plus.
What made it? Oh, okay. So it was promoting Discovery.
Yeah, Discovery, yeah. So they rented out a club with a outdoor bar area, and the bar area was open to the public. You had to have a special pass to go to the Trek party. Shatner was there, you know, like there were some cool people, obviously, some headliners for that party, but the outside patio bar, you just had to wait in line. And then, I mean, there was your typical count that was allowed to be in the space at one time, but it was just a bar, no food or anything like that. So you go in, you have a couple drinks, you move on. So, but cool experiences all over. They did a Dungeons and Dragons pop-up bar. That line was a mile long. We did not wait in that, but also we heard it was a very cool experience still. A lot of locals do some of the pop-up events because they post all their tickets ahead of time. So the locals are like, oh, that looks cool. I'll go to that, get their ticket, and show up at their designated time and go. So, and then don't have to wait on standby. But yeah, I think that's really the biggest takeaway though. Just be more prepared, and now I know what to expect. I think it's the same thing that when my first celebration, I knew what was going on. I had a good handle on things, I thought, and then I get there and I'm like, I should have done this. I should have done this. All that stuff.
Now, do they post, kind of like Celebration did, do they post for each day, here's the panels that are going on, or here's the discussions that are going on, and here's where they are, and you can kind of schedule it that way? Or
Oh yeah, like I mean, imagine the program guide they give you when you go day one. Just imagine the TV guide.
Yes. Those of us who are old enough know what the TV guide is.
Yes. So, or you're searching Hulu for your live TV channels, or I don't even know what else, Sling, and you're just going down the list, you know? And that's it. That's how it's set up. It is set up TV guide style. And I mean, you are just thumbing through like a page of 40 things, like 40 rows that are happening in each room of stuff. And then if you don't want to look at that program guide, you can flip into the page where it's the description of what that panel actually is, or what that event actually is. I was looking at Thursday and I sent a picture to my wife and I'm like, okay, so I'm a little overwhelmed. And I mean, because it was Wednesday night and I took a picture of this page and the guide. I'm like, a little overwhelming. And she's like, what is that? I'm like, that's the program guide. And then she's like, well, that seems like a lot. And I'm like, yeah, that's one page out of 4 that break down every event going on. And 4 is probably less than it was. It's probably 8 to 10 pages of breakdowns, because it breaks down every event in order that's happening. So it's just insane. And then just being more intentful with my time, I think, like looking at panels I really want to go to, because there's a lot of smaller panels that, I mean, are less attended that you can get into pretty quickly and pretty easily. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Just be more planful.
So did you see any, from a Star Wars presence perspective, I imagine it was relatively light.
Yeah.
I saw some pictures of some of the costumes, so like some of the stuff that maybe we saw at Celebration.
Yeah, the display and stuff, pretty similar to Celebration. Like their layout, it was highlighting some outfits and some costumes and stuff, and then they had some like other, like the Stance was there, Stern Pinball was there, so they had a couple of machines. Arcade 1-Up had stuff there for Star Wars. Heroes and Villains were there for Star Wars, and then yeah, I mean, that was really, there wasn't a ton of other stuff for just strictly Star Wars. A lot of authors were there, like Kevin Scott, Charles Soule, a few other artists were in Artist Alley that did Star Wars stuff. It just kind of depended on where you were at, but obviously this kind of encompasses everything. So that's the other thing. It was just, if you're not a big fan of a lot, I mean, you're going to find your niche and be there all day, but your niche might not be very big, if that makes sense.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So as far as the The big panels. Did you do any of the big panels?
We did not do any Hall H.
None.
We weren't camping out. We both had agreed that when we go again, we'll camp out once. But some of those people were in line for 22 hours plus just to get a wristband so they could leave for the night and come back in the morning because they had a wristband finally. And I'm not waiting outside for 22 hours straight, sleeping on concrete or an air mattress even. I don't care. I wasn't going to do it this year. So next time we go, we will. But we also found out there's like, line parties and stuff like that you can join where it's 30 people taking shifts. And so that way you're not stuck there all day, but you have to sit your shift. Mm-hmm. And then everyone's there. When it gets to a certain time of night, everyone's there until the wristbands get handed out, which could be anywhere between 7 p.m. the night before all the way to like 11 p.m. So you might just be there for a few hours at the end.
Okay.
At the end. Because once you get your wristband, you can go home because you'll get in. But then you have to wait in line again to get into Hall H.
To get into a spot, to
get
like get towards
spot.
the front, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's still camping involved if you want a good seat.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember back when Revenge of the Sith came out in 2005, and you still had to camp out back then. And I went with Nick Van Drew, Ryan Beck, Todd Stacy, and then Todd Stacy's brother camped out. He camped out from noon until we were fourth in line because he went and stood in line. He stood in line for 12 hours just so we could
be right there.
Cough, cough, cough. Just be front and center and do that. So that's 12 hours. I can't imagine waiting in line for a whole day.
Yeah, I mean, to get into the big panel for you at Celebration, on the standby line for which one did you go to? Clone Wars? You went to
Well, yeah, and that wasn't even the big panel, but of the day. Technically, that was technically the second panel of the day.
But I mean, you got in line like what, 45 minutes ahead of time? Maybe not even.
It was a couple hours. Actually, because I think the panel started at 1:30, and I got in line at like 11:30 or 11:45.
Yeah.
So 45 an hour early.
Before they let you in your seats.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and like that was a quote unquote big panel for the day. Hall H runs 2 or 3 big panels each day, but to get into any of them, it's you got to be in, or you have to have the wristband already.
That's wild. So any good cosplays you see?
Oh yeah, I mean there's loads of cosplays everywhere. I mean, Saturday was the big day for cosplay, obviously. I mean, that's the most attended day. And yeah, I mean, a lot of Star Wars characters around, a lot of Mandos, saw a lot of new Boba. Yeah, I mean your typical stuff. Tons of Harley Quinns, lots and lots and lots of characters I don't know the names of because I don't watch the animes they're from.
Like Attack on Titan.
Oh yeah, I mean there was a ton of anime. Really cool though. They looked great, but I just didn't know who the hell they were. Sorry for all my anime followers out there, but I'm not. I don't do it. So it's pretty insane though. I'm trying to find a picture right now of because I got one with probably the best Star Wars group cosplay we saw. If I can find it right now.
I'm intrigued.
I know. It wasn't anything special. It was it would have been run of the mill for like Celebration, like we ran into so many great cosplays there. But they were just cool and they were super nice and yeah, it was Boba, Mando, it was the Bounty Hunter group. It was Boba, Mando, and then Leia in disguise, Boosh. And they were just cool and they were just they were chilling in the main hall. So
yeah, those are cool. Those are good.
and they looked great. There was a couple of good ones though, like a giant porg walking around the floor.
The mouth.
It moves.
No, it doesn't.
Oh yeah, he could. Whoever was inside could move the mouth. I'm guessing it was a woman based on.
You gotta post it on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, based on the height, I'm guessing it was either a woman or a child. It would be a pretty short male.
Because the mouth on that in the picture you took is kind of it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's open right now. It looks like
it's slightly off-putting.
It needs something in it right now. You choose the object anyway. But yeah, cool cosplays all around. I mean, like I said, tons of Harleys, tons of Batman. Saw a really cool Joker with Batman armor on. Like it was the Joker's face from The Dark Knight, but it was in Batman armor, but it was painted like purple and green and stuff like that.
That's cool.
It looked pretty sweet.
Vigilante Joker.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, super cool stuff. All over, tons of comic artists and authors everywhere. You can just walk up to guys. If you're a fan of their stuff, you can get signatures galore. Most of them were like, if you bought a book there, signature was free with it. If you brought your own item, they might do one for free and then charge you for extras that you're getting signed. CGC obviously had a huge presence there for all those collectors that are getting CGC level signed items. It was insane. And watching B do a lot of work in those with the authors and artists, man, it was crazy. And just seeing people that I've read about or read their stuff, like the minimal comic, I'll call them the minimal comic exposure that I have. But like Greg Capullo was there, his Batman artist. So I just sitting there talking to him, and I'm like, I've only read like some stuff, and like Brandon's like, this dude like is legit, like the artist.
You were there with like the resident,
yes,
like, comic expert.
Yes, it was a treat. It was a treat watching him talk to some of those guys about some of their work and what they were doing, and just really cool. And then obviously I went to the Funko shop, so a couple times.
You did well on your Funko visits.
Oh, I had a couple hauls. Yeah, it was good. You had to win lotteries, just like Celebration. B won one, I won one, and yeah, we got hauls.
So how did that work? Was it like online, like was for Celebration where you pre-registered, or
Yeah.
was it a date like the day of you jumped in line?
No, so it was similar to Celebration but different still. So they had all these lotteries set up, right? So some of them were signature lotteries where you got to, like Jim Lee was one of the signature lotteries. And if you guys don't know who Jim Lee is, he is the Batman, basically the DC artist for everything Batman. So he was doing a limited signing event. You had to win the lottery on Friday, I think, to get a ticket to buy his autograph. So how they did it though, so they had all these things, like you could choose Funko or UCC, which is an Ultimate Collector's Core, whatever it is. I can't remember the name of their thing. Whatever. It was a big booth with a lot of vaulted Funkos and those Squishmallows, which I don't get the phase, but if you want to compare something to Beanie Babies,
Squishies.
they are squishy Beanie Babies, and they're huge. Anyway,
I've seen people on Whatnot who sell the squishies.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
They're insane, and good for them. but craziness. And then you've got, but anyway, so you've got all these different things you can look for, like Loungefly Funko, UCC, a couple other signatures, and then like the big name signatures that are doing limited signings, like a Jim Lee or something like that. They give you 12 points, basically meaning 12 entries a day, and you can pick which places you want to put your entries.
It's like
at.
a silent raffle type thing where you've got so many door tickets and you
Yep.
drop them in the buckets.
So you've got 12 door tickets. There are 4 slots for Funko. You can pick whichever slot you want and put as many tickets as you want. The only thing you couldn't do was carry your tickets to the next day. So you get 12 a day.
no rollovers.
So there's no rollover. So if I'm like, I want to put all of them on Saturday. Nope, you got to put 12 per day. So
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
That makes it fair for others. Or
so
for everyone, I should say.
each B and I both won one Funko lottery. We didn't win anything else for the 3 days we went. So it worked out in our favor in some cases. So yeah, it was fun. But the lotteries worked out for us that time. Some people were very upset that they didn't get anything, as always. Some people were like, this is my second trip to the Funko booth today, because they won 2 different time slots the same day, because there was no preventing. It was all random. So, which I also can appreciate, because if I got my first Funko slot, I want my ticket to still count for my third Funko slot or whatever it was, because I entered them separately.
It makes sense.
It makes sense, but it's also, wow, you got to go to the Funko booth twice today.
Yay! But for you, that's, I mean,
It would be good for me, but also like it's they sell out throughout the day. They don't carry a stock. Like at Celebration, for instance, they basically had everything until the lottery were done, and then they started selling out for standby stuff.
they had enough to cover every single lottery winner.
Yeah, at Celebration. At SDCC, like they were hour-long lottery slots. By the end of the second or third hour, they were sold out of stuff, and I think there was 5 slots per day. So I think it started when the Stro opened and ended at, I think 2 to 3 was the last lottery, and then it went standby. But like by the time 3 came around, or 2 to 3 slot, they were out of they'd be out of like 4 or 5 Funkos, and they were the ones that everybody was.
What was
really
what was the popular Funko this go around?
So the Ninja Turtle and Power Ranger mashups were a big one. They just announced the comic for that. So Leo and Donatello were the heads, and it was Donnie as the Black Ranger and Leo as Blue Ranger. And I'm guessing we're going to get Mikey and Raph at New York Comic Con is my guess, because that just makes sense that Funko would release them back to back at major cons this year. So I'll have to get them because I currently only have Donnie. I'll get my Leo from somewhere eventually. Those are big. The top priced ones, the new Supersonic.
That's the yellow one, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The original Supersonic where he pops in and he's flying in the air and he's like, he turns supersonic. That one was sold out pretty much first every day. And then some of the anime pops went really quick. So Enmu from Dragon Slayer, that is the top selling pop from SDCC this year, roughly around $300 to $350. And then I think it's Yugi Itadori pop from Jujutsu Kaisen. It's selling for roughly between 150 and 200, and then that's Supersonics, like in the 150 to 200 range also. But everything else is pretty average price. There's a couple that are still over $100 with the Comic-Con sticker, but most of them landed in that 50 to 60 range, and some of them are cheaper than that because the character is just not.
It's not that popular.
Not desirable. There's a few Marvel pops. The Star Wars pops that were released were Black Chrysanthemum, also sold out a lot. That Chrysanthemum pop's probably about $120 right now. And then they had a new Andor pop, which hopefully it blows up with our later discussion.
With Cassian?
It's Cassian Andor.
Cassian.
Yeah, so yeah. And then they did a Purge Trooper from Kenobi.
Oh, nice.
So they switched it up. So they went Book of Boba, Kenobi, and then Andor. Cool stuff. Andor might blow up when the show comes out. We'll see what happens.
So, would you go back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was a blast. Outside the con, man, so many things. It was just so much to do that we didn't do. That we might plan for better next time. I think that was the biggest thing that we had talked about while we were there, is B and I were just like, there's just so much that we missed that could we have made it? Maybe. Would we have been more stressed? Definitely. But we just took it easy and walked the floor and talked to a lot of people. I mean, we talked to a ton of people. Met a few podcasts while we were there. That was a blast. Went to dinner with a couple of them. Just really great people that, like it puts me to shame from some of their knowledge base, because they are comic genius. Like, in my opinion, like they're to comics what I am to Star Wars, and it's incredible the knowledge that they store in their heads, and it dwarfs anything I could ever remotely think that I knew about comics. Just talking to those guys for just a few minutes, and then even B, I mean, he can keep up with everything they're all talking about. And I'm like, how do you remember that author, that artist, on what issue, from which comic, and the year it came out, or like what? Like it's just insane listening to some of them talk. And the goal is to get back there next year, potentially, or the year after again. I'm hoping for next year again. But it's expensive. So it's an expensive trip, but a lot of fun. But yeah, so many things. Gosh, so many things. I don't even know what to say. Like, other than I felt lost the first day, just because there's a lot of merch, there's a lot of other things, and then I know we went down Artist Alley and everything at Star Wars. Artist Alley and the area for comic creators there, insanely huge.
I feel like I would get lost there like every day.
If you walk down an aisle, all of a sudden you're talking to a comic creator that maybe his comic hasn't taken off yet, but he's done work on other things that you know. All of a sudden you're like, oh, well, let me take a look at your first comic, and you're reading it. You're sitting there reading it, and you're like, this is pretty good. Like, and then you just get hooked, but like you're talking to the creator right in front of you, and it's just a phenomenal experience being able to chat with something that maybe you didn't think you would be interested in, but then you read one issue of what they have in front of them, and they're like, yeah, pretty awesome. And I'll sign it for you.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, as talking about the comics, as like I and you to some extent start to delve into the Star Wars side of things. Going to Celebration, there was no, like, they had the panels on the books, they had the panels, like they had the Marvel panel for the comics, but you didn't have that interface, that interaction that it sounds like exists at SDCC, where you could literally walk up to your illustrators, your, some of your maybe B tier like writers, like not maybe like your premier writers, but
there's some out there,
But you could just walk up to them and strike a conversation. And I really wish you could have, like, Celebration, and maybe it had to do with the pandemic and stuff like that, stuff going on.
And we were still unmasking the show for SDCC too, so still masked up for the show.
So I mean, I that's the one thing. Seeing what you guys did, some of the pictures that you guys posted, I really wish they would have not catered to, but had those experiences at Celebration that it looks like they had sort of set up at SDCC. So I'm hoping that with all of the push into print that Star Wars is starting to do through Marvel, Dark Horse, and then Del Rey, like, we get more of that in future cons.
I mean, I believe we
celebrations,
will.
I should say.
I believe we will. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing too. Is like at Star Wars Celebration, Del Rey has their own booth, and their authors don't leave that booth. Like, they're there for a certain amount of time, and that's it. And it's so much more focused. Like, everyone there is there for Star Wars stuff. So you are right in the middle of the biggest fandom for us on the planet, and everyone there is trying to get the same thing. At SDCC, it's almost easier to get some of those people because, I mean, 50% of the people at the convention are not there for Star Wars. They're there for anime or DC level stuff or Marvel stuff, like whatever else they're there for. They're not there specifically for Star Wars. So it's like, it's a different environment too, because I probably could have walked up to more Star Wars creators more freely. Well, I did walk up to more Star Wars creators more freely because not everybody was there for them. Now, the major writers, stars, like on-screen stars or voice actor stars, they're still packed for Star Wars because that's the celebrity. So whenever one of them was on the floor doing a signing or something like that, just packed, just insanely packed. But if it was just like an author or artist for a comic strip or whatever else is going on, a comic or comic strip, they were available like 90% of the time. I mean, Brandon and I walked up to the head art director for Marvel Studios. He literally just got promoted to like he's either VP or head art director for Marvel Studios, and
for the film division. And there was one guy at his booth talking to him when we walked up, and Brandon's like, "Dude, that's him. That's the guy." And I'm like, "Yeah, like, let's go chat." So like Brandon went and talked, and like he bought a couple of his prints because I mean he had stuff that he had drawn for some of the original Guardians. The first drawings of what the Guardians were going to look like. Some of them got changed, obviously. Some of the elements that he had in the picture were kept, but then he had all the way up through like Captain Marvel there, like very clean, like. And he's like, "Yeah, they basically gave me a layout of what they kind of wanted, and then I go to town and just give them an image, and then they pick and choose what they like. I might draw 4 or 5 images for Kevin to look at." And he's on a first name basis.
Well, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it's just crazy. It was crazy talking to some people there because they're in such high positions and such just distinguished positions in these companies. Like, I mean, Marvel or DC, or I mean, some of them have been writing for Marvel or DC for decades, and they are just the biggest names in the business. So.
But they're just like people like you and I.
They are just like people.
They put their pants on one leg at a time.
Well, and that's the other thing too that you'll see is there's some of them like will sit there and talk to you through a process, or they'll be sketching right in front of you, or they'll take commissions to sketch while they're at the show. So they might be working on a commission, look up, start talking to you about something, go back to their commission for a little bit, come up, talk a little bit more. Like, but it's just great because they're always doing something. They're always working, I feel like, which is just insane. But I know those deadlines and stuff are very important. So like you got to be able to crack out some stuff pretty quickly, and those people are so freaking talented.
That's where I would lose money if I could walk up to somebody and get a commission on, or
Oh yeah, if they're not busy,
be like, hey, can you draw X, draw a four cell,
whatever character you're doing,
that would be, I'd probably lose.
I was watching
one
one girl. I forget. I wish I knew her name because she draws Venom.
Oh, cool.
And like the commission she was working, she's like, oh yeah, I'm just working on a commission real quick. And I was chatting with her, and she's just like, yeah, they just wanted a Venom, and they wanted him holding this or whatever. And I'm like, and you're just doing that with a pencil right now, just whipping it out, like just crushing it. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, jeez.
At that point, it's like muscle memory, right?
Oh,
you don't have to think. It's the same shapes.
And
it's
such steady hands and everything else. I'm like, gosh.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I know that. Well, I guess before we wrap it up, is there anything else you want to share about?
No, I mean, I like to keep it as much Star Wars as possible, and I will say that show, it was, 15% Star Wars for me. I celebrated all my other fandoms while I was there, pretty much. I mean, there was a lot of Star Wars there to see as far as like cosplay and some of the other stuff, but I mean, no big Star Wars panels there or anything like that.
But I know that you and B. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say the floor is like, you and I could walk end to end in the Star Wars Celebration Hall, like. I don't know.
Not even a half hour.
No, I mean
15 minutes.
Well, if we were just beelining it, like 10 to 15 max, even fighting crowds. There, it was literally, it felt like a 45-minute walk from end to end just to get through, and with the crowds and everything else. I mean, it was a packed show, and then they had a ton of booths, like just everywhere. Every major company. I mean, Netflix had Paramount Plus had a booth. I mean, everybody, every TV company had a booth, basically. I mean, Nickelodeon had massive booth. SpongeBob.
It's just stuff
everywhere.
that you don't think about. Well, I shouldn't say you don't think about, but even if you go to like local cons, like smaller cons, like it's nothing compared to like it's the granddaddy sort of that, and that New York Comic Con, Emerald City Comic Con, like those three are like the.
I'll make it to those eventually. Somebody asked me at the show if I was going to NYCC because they were going, and I'm like, you guys are doing this again in 3 months? Like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't have time for that, or money for that.
My wallet allows me one big splurge a year.
Yeah, and from now on, it's going to be this, unless it's Star Wars Celebration.
I was going to say next year we're not going to Celebration since it's in London. So
yet, no, I won't be attending. I don't think.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe it's the summer of San Diego. We all try and go.
Oh well, I mean, now we're in now, so like we get the lottery with the current attendees instead of having to wait for the peasants that have never been.
That'll be me.
No, because I can buy your ticket now. Because you can buy 3 tickets with your one in. Like if I get in with the you've attended crowd, I can buy up to 3 tickets.
Nice.
So yeah, you can. If I get in, you're in.
Score.
That's just it. Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll have a blast with it.
Well, I know that you and B have some good content from the show that's more in-depth artist, author interviews and stuff like that. So if SDCC and that sort of stuff is kind of your jam, be sure to check them out. I'm guessing those episodes will be dropping soon-ish. As
they should drop very quickly here.
If you give them the SD card that is sitting right here on the table that has all the information on it. But be sure to check them out over at Galactic Dads for more SDCC content.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. With that, let's pivot.
Pivot.
I was gonna say another thing that popped into my head when you were talking about panels and stuff like that was Light and Magic, the Light and Magic panel that we went to. And I don't know if you've seen any of the
dropped.
episodes.
Yeah, it dropped. I have not seen it yet though.
Oh well, then I won't really talk too much about it because
the only thing I've seen is somebody made a joke online in one of my Black Series collectors groups with the George Lucas in his retro clothing. He's like, "Tell me you guys would buy this," and it was just hilarious. It was him and his like
from
Light and Magic. Yeah,
okay.
It was a Black Series figure with Light and Magic.
Light and Magic George to go next to the Stormtrooper George.
It was just George George with his glasses and his big hair, and
yes.
it was It was funny. It was funny.
And his dad's shoes and his jeans and his flannel button up.
Yeah.
Or not flannel, but checker.
It looked like a jacket over like some really baggy T-shirt. It was pretty awesome. George in street clothes next to a stormtrooper.
Well, I would pay for a George in his USC garb from his American Graffiti days. That's the Black Series figure I want. I want American Graffiti George Lucas. That would look really good next to my Star Wars, or not Star Wars, my Stormtrooper Black Series figure.
I will say at SDCC the pre-order code was way more difficult to get a hold of than at Star Wars Celebration.
Which figure was that for?
It was for the Boba in disguise, his black suit, so to speak.
The comic.
From the
comics, mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, sweet looking figure. I got one, but it was much more difficult to get a hold of the pre-order code.
You couldn't just walk up and get 4 of them?
No, the first day I tried to get it, they were gone already. And it was 15 minutes after the show floor opened, and I couldn't get it.
Oh,
so the next day I tried, and I was a little quicker to it. And they basically had you walk up past the main booth up to the stage that they had. Because Hasbro had a huge thing there. Mm-hmm. Versus at Celebration, it was probably half as big. And because at Celebration, they're just doing Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Here they had their Transformers, their G.I. Joes. I mean, they had everything laid out. But you had to walk up to their stage, and there was a guy handing them out and looking like intently at you like, you already got one. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. So, and then he was like, yeah, be on it this time today because they will sell out again. This does not guarantee you a figure versus the pre-order at Celebration pretty much guaranteed you a figure.
Yeah, because it was open till the last day through like midnight the last day.
And they were passing out thousands, I felt like, a day.
Oh, yeah.
This one was like, we've got 150 pre-order codes, and we're done after that each day. Probably because they're having supplier issues.
Probably.
So.
But yeah, as far as the light and magic stuff, we'll save that for another episode. So
we will have to dive into that, though, because it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm 3 episodes in, and it's awesome. I didn't actually realize that George Lucas nearly died in a car accident when he was a kid. So that was interesting, and also didn't know that the Blockade Runner was the original design for Han's ship. That was the original Millennium Falcon, was the Tantive 4, or the Tantive 4, however you want to describe it. So the first 3 episodes are all Star Wars related, more or less, and then episode 4 is when they start to farm out the stuff to like Spielberg and some of the early 80s stuff after Empire came out, but between Empire and Jedi, when they start filling in the gaps for like Indiana Jones and stuff like that. So I can't wait to watch this. So
gonna be good.
So let's talk about
Andor.
So first of all, it gets pushed back. Let's talk about that real quick. Pushed back to September 21st.
Boo.
But we get 3 episodes now instead of 2.
Yay.
So, my opinion is it doesn't really bother me getting pushed back 3 weeks.
No, I wish they would not do 3 episodes though. I wish they would just leave it at 2. Get our palates wet. I don't know if the issue is they're worried about running into something else, because that's the only reason they would drop 3, because it would push the series back a week.
Well, I think as the schedule stands now, I think Bad Batch is supposed to come out the week after that. I think it's supposed to come out end of September. So, but along with that announcement of it getting pushed back 3 weeks, we got a new 2.5 minute roughly trailer, and
I think it was needed.
And it looks great. I think
it was needed.
Simply, yeah. Well, yeah.
From a fan standpoint, you think about Rogue One. People enjoyed that movie. I think
it. Yeah, I think for most people, it's like top 3.
I think you're right. I think that Cassian specifically was probably one of the, I'll call it, least favorite characters out of the main character set. So I think there were a lot of I think people were down on it a little bit. But then after seeing this trailer, I don't know how you can be down on it. Like, Mon Mothma's back, new character for Stellan Skarsgård, which he looks like he's going to be a huge player. Like,
And he's the latest guy to go from Marvel to
Yeah, just one more.
to Star Wars.
Add it to the list. Get some more Saw
or
Gerrera.
vice versa. Yeah. Oh yeah. Saw.
I mean, we have so many great characters that we've met, some that we have not met, and they all look great. And what we saw from the trailer, like casting in disguise as an Imperial, looked like officer, at least a cadet at the minimum. So he's in there. He's in there.
He's the wolf in sheep's clothing type thing.
I mean, so many cool things because he truly was a spy. I mean, we knew he was a spy already, but like we didn't know the depth, and being able to let's see it, I'm excited.
Well, and you get the whole from Rogue One. I've been in it since I was 6 years old, and the trailer starts out with a kid climbing into. Well, actually, I don't even know what he's climbing into, but doing some reading on the interwebs. This first season is supposed to take place. It's 5 years before A New Hope, so we're prime Rebels, period. Hera and all them. But this first season is supposed to take place over the course of that year. So basically, year 5 to year 4, BBY, and then the second season is supposed to take place from year 4 up to basically Rogue One. And so you're going to be doing a lot of time hopping in season 2. But the thing I think I'm most excited about, and I think a lot of people are, is this is the first Disney Plus show, or the first Star Wars Disney Plus show that's not using the volume at all. And so it's all real environments and practical sets, practical effects, minus, space battles and stuff like that, because obviously that's CG. But all of the environments and stuff, so we get that opening shot in the new trailer of this expansive mountain and the rebel sort of little hideout it's the rebel hideout with the Star Destroyer flying overhead. And you're just like, you can't get that in the volume, right? So I think that I'm most excited about that because we've talked in previous episodes about kind of that grittiness, that realness of the rebel struggle against the Empire, and you can get that in the real world, like using real world environments, and using practical sets and stuff like that. So I'm really glad, because I saw a lot of talk about the volume and stuff on Twitter the other day. I'm like, what? After the trailer dropped, what are you talking about? And so when read a couple articles, like, oh, it's not using the volume. So I'm super stoked about that. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got. I think the biggest thing with not using the volume is you've got that real world grittiness, like you said, and the other thing is, you can't just do anything. Like at the volume, you can physically put on that screen whatever you want to. You have to make it happen in real life somehow, and so I just know that from a production standpoint too, like we're gonna get things that look real outside of the CGI pieces they're going to plug in, but we're going to get things that interact correctly with a human being, because they're going to everything that is there is going to have to interact properly with a human being. And I'm very excited for that. I mean, I'm excited for the show, period. I was excited when I sat in on that panel and saw Diego come out and get excited with everybody else. And I think that just takes us back to the Star Wars Celebration and how excited that room was that Diego was taking this on again and reprising his role as a character, and going to take us between the two parts that are going to make up the Andor series. Like you said, take us through the first year, and then the second part will take us through the rest of it all the way up to Rogue One.
Yeah, and you can tell just how much he loves doing this, because I saw a replay of his interview at Celebration on the Celebration stage, and just the way that he, I think he loves this role and playing this character and getting to play in the environment or in the universe. And as far as the shows goes, when this was first announced at D23 back in, was it 2019? I think it was. This was the one show that aside from Obi-Wan, when Kathleen Kennedy brought Ewan out, this was the one show I was looking forward to. Like Boba, cool. Ahsoka, cool. I wanted this show, and the reason I wanted this show is because we've never gotten to see the Empire be the Empire, so to speak. We've seen glimpses of it briefly in Bad Batch with, them basically enforcing their will upon star systems, stuff like that. We've never seen peak Empire. And so maybe this won't be pure peak because we're, 13 years post Order 66. But this is Empire kind of at its height. And I think it's what he talks to in the trailer, like about how they're so fat and happy.
Yeah, fat and happy.
They're so fat and happy.
But the I will say Rebels, you got to see it a little bit, like at peak, but this is the first live action where we've been really like, oh, Rebels peak, or not Rebels peak, Empire peak, outside of Rogue One when they were still peaking. Really, I mean, they were about to create the Death Star. That's just it. Like, I would say that was the peak because they finally had a weapon that could destroy a planet in front of them. It was a quick fall, climax too early. But the peak Empire, like you said, fat and happy, like they're proud of what they're doing. Like they are getting too comfortable, and they think that no one can harm them. I think that I want to see that grittiness from the Rebel Alliance and just see the players, what they do. And I saw Guerrero once all out war, so.
Yeah, and with Stellan Skarsgård's character, we get to see him in 3 different stages in the same trailer, right? He's he's kind of like his rogue guy, and then he almost looks like an aristocrat.
I would say he's almost a senator.
He's a business. It looked like a business owner of some sort, but maybe he is a senator, or some sort. Not a senator the way that Mon Mothma is, because she's clearly shown in the Imperial Senate. Which that scene is actually really cool, the way it's got the Imperial insignia on the floor. I saw a bunch of pictures of that floating around the internet. I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I am the Senate.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen people, too, asking about, or talking about not wanting cameos or anything like that. And they're like, well, we're in the Senate. You got to have the Senate.
You would think. You'd have them.
So it's like, you've got a bunch of the memes with the I am the Senate.
Will Padme be there? Yeah. Too soon?
Unfortunately,
too soon?
No. But theoretically, Leia could be, like, in theory, if they wanted to, they could shoehorn in a Leia. But
because Bail would be there,
because
obviously.
Bail's definitely there. And from Rebels that Leia is involved with the Senate as she goes around, undercover rebel, right?
Yeah, she's an ambassador.
Right. Right. I've come here to steal back my supplies, but you don't know that yet. So there's a number of people that we could see. The one scene where they're on the ship breaking planet, like I wonder if that's going to be like Braca. Maybe not Braca, but it looks a lot like Braca from Fallen Order, just in the daytime and not at night.
Yeah.
So I'm as I've said before, I'm really excited to get that kind of espionage feel that we haven't seen. We've not gotten that we've heard about it. We hear about the Bothan spies in Jedi, and you've got a slight bit of stealing of plans in Rogue One, but this is true spy networks, undercover. It's like if James Bond was set like kind of in the Star Wars realm, and he's to some extent. And so I'm excited to see how the Rebel Alliance utilizes tech in, kind of changes it around. We see pictures of like this really cool looking X-Wing, like a rudimentary X-Wing outside of Saw's facility or bunker or whatever, which kind of gave a Yavin 4 vibe to me. But yeah, I kind of going into hopes, like I want. Yes, it's gonna focus on Cassian and the Rebels and all that stuff, but I want some sort of Empire strength, because that's the motive, right? That's the reason why they fight back and resist. So what is driving them? What is the quote unquote motivation for the rebels? Why do they feel now is the time to fight back? What's happening? That's what I want. I don't know. What would you like to see?
I don't know. I think I just have questions. First, it's less of a question. The first one. I don't think we're going to see a Jedi. I do think we're going to see a lightsaber. I think we get Vader. I think we see him at some point. I just have that feeling. I don't think it'll be very long. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be more of a threatening situation with either Cassian or someone else seeing him. But his presence will be felt somewhere. And I can't complain about that because so far Disney's done nothing wrong with Vader.
True.
They've done a lot of things, but Vader's been almost perfect. So
yeah, and that's a good point, because I mean, people who've read the comics, like the Vader comics and stuff, right? You get very graphic depictions of what he did in the early days. So if you got some sort of strong arm Imperial presence with Vader being kind of the spearhead of it, yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be okay with that.
Exactly. I don't need the Emperor to show. I feel like we're gonna get the Emperor for something. He's not gonna show a lightsaber off or anything like that, but he'll be there. But I don't mind seeing Vader pop up briefly. Obviously, he can't be a spearhead in the whole show, but he can be there.
Well, yeah, because the scene at the end of Rogue One, right? The fear, like, there's no reason for. I shouldn't say there's no reason. Obviously, there's the history that everyone understands about Vader, but I feel like the rebels have to have some sort of interaction prior to that. Maybe it's not in the show, but so that the second he lights up the lightsaber, they know what's about to happen, sort of thing. So I'd be okay if he didn't show up, but I wouldn't be upset if he did.
Yeah.
So what are your questions?
Well, in Rogue One, everybody died. How many deaths are we going to see from characters that we are going to probably fall in love with?
I think Stellan Skarsgård's character is gonna bite it at some point.
I see him disappearing. Yes,
but I think he does it I think he'll do it in a most stupendous way.
Probably.
Hopefully.
And then my next question is, how many rebels do you think have infiltrated the Imperial ranks that Cassian is directly connected to? We see a lot of Imperials in the trailer, like quite a few. The fat and happy ones, the ones that are questioning him. I mean, there's quite a few Imperial officers running around. I would guess about 50% of them that we interact with specifically in the show are probably like the main ones that we're going to interact with. Probably from the trailer. Probably 50% from the trailer is probably on his side in some way. I
can't
imagine he's hiding from all of them.
I would think it's probably, just my opinion, I think it would be a little bit less than that, only because you need some level of concern, not concern, but like peril, right? So if half the people that he's going to be interacting with are technically buddies, you don't have to worry about as much him being discovered, at least in those early.
Well, I just imagine his buddies getting caught.
And then ratting him out?
No, and then not ratting him, and then him losing friends as he goes.
Well, that implies that they have the willpower to withstand an imperial interrogation.
That's also true.
And I don't think they're going to.
I mean, maybe one gets caught, and then he's like, "And we're out. Now's the time."
Well, because we get the scene at the very end of the trailer, which I posted about this on Twitter, about it giving me a THX 1138 vibe, with everyone in white jumpsuits escaping some sort of urban setting. I don't know what that's supposed to be, but they're almost all like prisoners. So either that, or it's some sort of like training center of some sort. But they're obviously all related in some way, and then obviously he jams some sort of thing and makes an explosion. Well, it cuts to an explosion, but I feel like he's going to get caught at some point. Like that's going to be kind of there's going to be some catalyst there where he's going, and he gets caught, and then he has to find a way to escape, which we know he's going to escape, right? Because he has to. But, I mean, I think they can do it in such a way where, he's forced to give, like, he's tortured in something, and I use that term loosely, but, like, in such a way that he starts to lose cohorts because of his inability to, or his unwillingness to cooperate, and making it real, like adding to that sense of, this is suddenly, you've lost something. This is suddenly real for you, right? And all the stuff that he's lost and endured during the fight. Like, I feel like that's where we have to get to, right? We have to get to the a-hole,
a very broken
in Rogue One,
a very broken a-hole-ish,
right? So
Cassian.
he has to get there in this series, and so he has to experience tremendous loss over and over and over again, and has to keep coming back and pushing and pushing and pushing, so that those that he loses over the course of this show aren't lost for no reason. And so that's what we're gonna, experience, and everyone needs to prepare to have, their hearts broken at least a handful of times. And so
I don't want that. I don't want my heart broken.
But that's where you have to get. You have to get there. And I think this is a chance for Disney Star Wars, at least the TV shows, to go that darker path.
Rated R. Rated R. I'm just kidding. But seriously.
But that darker path that some of the Marvel shows have gone. And
Yeah.
This is a topic for another cast that we've discussed, but Disney Plus Star Wars hasn't really gone there yet.
We've talked about it a couple times.
Yeah.
We got really excited. Saw some stuff.
Yeah.
Saw some stuff happen. And we're like, I want more of that.
Yep.
I don't know if that means I'm a good person or not, but
and then they've kind of retracted, and you're like, no, I enjoyed that, but in small doses, right, when appropriate. And I think that this show is that chance, for them to explore it, because you're probably not really going to get it with Ahsoka. I don't know what this skeleton crew thing is going to be, if and whenever it comes out. Just trying to think about some of the other Disney Plus Star Wars shows in the pipeline.
yeah.
Outside of Bad Batch, which is animation, so you can do stuff. But
And I know they're creating new stories, and Bad Batch is one of those things that we don't know exactly what's going to happen to the clones because we haven't seen them in live action or anything like that. So those characters could be in peril at any time, and we don't know. But my last question among this whole thing was, when are we going to get away from characters that have established timelines that we know what's going to happen, and they're going to give us something fresh, new, that actually is potentially dangerous? Because in a show, you like to see your characters in peril. You like to not know what's going to happen exactly. This is another case where we know exactly what's going to happen to Cassian. He can't. There's so many things he can't do. There's a lot of things he can, but there are things that cannot happen to him because he has to show up specifically with all limbs attached and in good health for the most part. Not mentally maybe, but physically great health. Rebel spy.
right.
So I wish we would just get to the point where we start making brand new content in different eras or different areas of the universe to tell Star Wars stories. But that's me.
Well, and we talked about that. I think that was last episode with, which seems like so long ago, but the stuff that's discussed in the comics, or going back to the Old Republic. I know there's discussions about a High Republic show, which that's one where again we'll be able to have characters that don't have a predestined or predetermined outcome, and so you can build that true sense of tension and peril and all that stuff. And so, but as far as Andor goes, I think this trailer cemented, the hype. I think for everyone. I think like you were saying that maybe there were some who were on the fence about it, but I think this trailer has changed that completely. I have not seen like the social media channels that I see or that I follow. I've not seen really anybody panning anything that was seen in the trailer, like, oh, that looks cheap, or oh, the lighting looks weird, like they did with Kenobi, because it's shot on the volume, and there are certain limitations to the technology, great as it is, and it is great, but just having that realism is going to make such a big difference. And we're 5 weeks away, and it's going to be, I can't wait. That's just the simple fact. I can't wait.
Yeah. I hope everybody at home is excited as we are. This show should be phenomenal, and Diego and Stellan Skarsgård, it's going to be good. The show should be very good. I imagine, like you said, hopefully going down a little bit of a darker path as far as the grittiness and what they're showing us on Disney Plus. Parental controls are live. They launched rated R movies
because Deadpool
and Logan
are on it.
Hit it. So I'm hoping that we start getting shows that are geared more towards adults. Like, we are one of the hardest fandoms in the world to please.
That's putting it politely.
Yeah, we've got 45 years basically at this point of fans, and we've got the OT fans, we've got the prequel fans, we've got the sequel fans, and then we have everybody loves all of it. Everybody can pick and choose, what they enjoy, but we have a distinct 3 generations of fans, minimum, that are in this fandom that love different aspects of it, that love to argue about who is right and who is wrong. And I'm just hoping that Disney continues to deliver on some of these Disney Plus shows that they've done well with so far. And this is a completely new director to our Disney Plus, I guess you could say, roster of directors.
Well, so he apparently, and I didn't know this about Tony Gilroy, I think is his name. I think it's Gilroy. He was involved in Rogue One. He was an executive producer on Rogue One.
Cool.
So he is very familiar with the characters.
That's great.
So I have high hopes for that. And then, we talked briefly about the music before we started recording, and did some research. The composer, it sounds like they're going to kind of get away from what like Ludwig did with Book of Boba and Mando, kind of with the unique instruments, the unique sounds, the sort of Far East vibes, Middle Eastern vibes that you get from the music, to more orchestral, not John Williams like, but it's hard not to be inspired by John Williams when you compose that kind of music. So I'm very interested to see the theming. He said that the theming will be more relational, like relationship based theming versus specific characters. Like there won't be like a Cassian theme, or maybe there will be for him, but you won't have like a Mothma theme. I don't know what Skarsgård's character's name is, but off the top of my head. But nevertheless,
well, I think to that point too, like think about the show like Mandalorian, Book of Boba, they're very different. It's going to be a very different feeling from what we're getting. So the Mandalorian took a lot of heavy inspiration from Kurosawa and a lot of movies that we've seen. And
you got the Western vibe.
The Western vibe also.
The gunslinger Western vibe too.
So like that different instrument, the uniqueness of that music is unique to that like the Mandalorian world, so to speak, right now, just because it is a very unique character that we have not been able to explore in the depth that we are with the Mandalorian. So it makes sense that they're moving away from that a little bit with music. And I think in the trailer, the music sounded great. Like I told you, I feel like it's Star Wars. Like, even though Mandalorian is definitely Star Wars, but like the music in this trailer made it feel like Star Wars. So very excited to hear the rest of it.
And certain aspects also gave me kind of, I talked about THX. You kind of get that 70s, 80s sci-fi feel too in some aspects, like with Blade Runner and like Logan's Run, which for anybody who's familiar with those films, they're kind of set in a well, Blade Runner's more, I think it actually takes place like around this time, but in the future sort of thing. And Logan's Run's kind of in like a utopian thing, but basically everyone's on the run. There's that sort of stuff. So I'm getting a mix of feels too, a mix of themes, with, yes, it's Star Wars, but they're kind of incorporating other sci-fi tropes, which I'm not upset about. I mean, getting a mix and getting kind of a mix of appearances and styles, I think is a good thing. I think we need some of that, get away from the sand planets. No offense, Tatooine, and just kind of branch out. So
Those are easy on the volume, though.
very easy on the volume. That in space.
Very, very easy to do on the volume. Really good stuff, though.
So yeah, can't wait for September 21st. Going to be a lot to unpack in those first 3 episode reviews.
Yeah.
Or recaps or whatever.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I think that...
Does that bring us to the end of our discussion today?
I think that's going to be it. It's kind of sad. I enjoy talking about Andor and SDCC and all the good things.
Well, you're about to head off to Mexico.
Ah, yeah. I'm going to Mexico in a couple of days here.
Enjoy that. Don't get too sunburnt.
Well, I was looking at the weather. It looks like it's going to rain for quite a bit of the time I'm there. So, well, we'll see what happens.
Well, hopefully you get a chance to relax, unwind a little bit, enjoy some time with the wife and little one.
Yeah, should be fun.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
Limits me to nothing.
Which means you will have no fun.
It limits me to nothing. I can do anything.
Yes. So yeah, I hope you enjoy your trip. So yeah. I look forward to our discussions when we get back.
Absolutely.
Or when you get back.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for all of you nerds out there that love things more than Star Wars, make sure you check out Galactic Dads. They're closing on 100 over there. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
SDCC recaps coming from them also. B will be on the discussion obviously for that. A lot of fun that we had there. And and then after that, just come find me on Whatnot. Jedi John, shameless plug every single time.
There it is.
I'm always there. I have a lot of fun. Action figures, pops, all that good stuff.
You did a Black Series auction last night, didn't you?
Last night was Black Series auction. Tonight, I'm supposed to do a Funko Pop. I don't know if we're going to make it or not. We'll see what happens.
What time's your show supposed to start?
Well, it was scheduled for 11, so I think I'm going to be a little late to that.
You just postpone it.
Yeah, I'll just move it back 30 minutes or so. We'll see what happens. But, come check me out on Whatnot and buy some of my collection because, it's...
Because he's got to buy more toys.
I got to buy more toys. Clearly. But we have a lot of fun on the in the chat and Whatnot. Do some trivia, do some discounted figs or Funkos just for answering some easy trivia questions. I say easy, but they're not easy. I make them fun. Just enjoy some tunes and buy some cool stuff.
There you go. So yeah, as we come to the end of this episode, we want to thank you all for listening. Be sure to check us out on our social media pages. Those will be in the show notes. So come join us there. Let us know what you think of the Andor trailer. What are you most excited to see? Hit us up. Let us know. For Jedi John, I'm Obi Sean. Until next time.
May the Force be with you.